Those scary monsters are the irrational fears, wanting to just hold on. It's also dealing with I feel like somehow I deserve that. These things happen to me. Maybe there's something wrong with me. Maybe I bring this out of people. Maybe I deserve this in some way. There's something about me. Well, maybe that's not it at all, and you just bought into that. It's a story you've told yourself. Okay, Eddie is. Okay, Eddie, you can start us up.
For this, is just so much of it really, I've mentioned before about my strokes and my struggles, but this is so much of what I struggle with is having to consciously think about it all the time, about how I act and what I do. And a lot of it, sometimes I get upset because it seems like at the end of the day, I look back and all my day was, don't do this, don't do this, don't do that. Because the old body, the old fleshly side is trying to take charge. And so I have to constantly focus on it. But I think back to pre-stroke, before my strokes, before my surgeries, and I prayed for my heart to be changed. And I prayed to become a new being. And so He granted me my prayers. Yahweh has really changed who I am. I could never be who I am now, the old me. But it's still a struggle. He hasn't taken away a lot of the things I thought I had overcome or over battled. They're still there. I still have those temptations. I still have those desires, and I have to consciously think, not. And I know it puts a lot on my wife because I direct it all towards her. So it is that battle that I have to constantly think about, though. But I do see where I am slowly winning. I am. Good. I am different. I'm not the same person. I am not who I used to be. And so, and I see her behind me, and Olivia over here somewhere. And I love talking to her because some of her struggles, I feel, even though we have different things that we're suffering from, it's still trying to learn the new normal. And Yahweh is allowing us to grow in that. And so I don't really have a question. So much of this has really resonated directly with the struggles I have. And so I thank you for,
That's great.
Talking to us about it. And I struggle with Paul, like Paul says, I catch myself doing things like, why am I doing this? Whoa, stop. And I have to back up. And so I thank you for the words that you give us and the insight you give us, and that we still are responsible. We still have to do the work ourselves. It's not going to be done for us. And so thank you so much.
Oh, no, you're so very welcome. I appreciate that, Eddie. And, I especially appreciate that the point that you made about with like comparing you with Olivia, struggle is struggle, okay? Whether you're in a wheelchair or you had the stroke and you had a mental challenge or whatever it was, it's still struggle. And you must understand and accept certain actual limitations, but boy, push as hard as you can to find out where they really are. Don't just, put a little test try out there and go, oh, I guess I can't do it. I mean, you're going to have to really push to see just how far you can go and what you are capable of. And then when you find an actual limitation, like Eddie's talked about, I know Olivia's done this too, you find workarounds, okay? But you can't find a workaround until you figure out really how far you can go. Push the limits till you find the actual limits, okay? And so, trying once and failing is not the limit. Okay, you have to try more than that. Now, you may have found the limit the first try, but you won't know it's actually a limit till you've tried multiple times and really made sure you've explored every possible way to see if something's an actual limit. And if it is, don't get depressed about it and just quit. Instead, say, I'm going to find a workaround from the limit. Okay? I've told this story when I couldn't breathe. Okay, that was years ago, and my lungs were shut down, everything else. I just figured I'd figure out a way to function barely being able to move. Because when you can't breathe, you can't really move, okay? I never had a thought of, woe is me and this and that and this. I just I'll just figure out some way to get whatever. And, I still had elders show up with papers to sign and things to do and decisions to make, sitting in my overstuffed chair, which is all I could do at the time, But, if I got paralyzed, I'd find some way to function, whatever still functions. Okay, if I had a stroke, I'd still try to function, whatever functions. Be always looking for what's the most I can do with what I have, okay? When at 62, I can't do what I could do at 22. This is no way. But yet, I do what I can and find workarounds, like getting 22-year-olds to do the things that I can't do. It's simply smart to do, okay? But I'm just saying is you find ways to maximize, okay? And again, it's a mental thing to say, I'm going to find a way instead of just quitting because you don't think there's a way.
How this has been good. Am I allowed to touch on what is fleshly versus?
You can go and touch on whatever you want because we have over an hour to go.
Okay, fantastic. First, sin no longer being my driver. I got the vision of the personalities with the 3-year-old in the back. And I was wondering if that's our zombie. Is that our weakest point? Is that
no,
coming at us?
No.
Okay.
Okay, so she's talking about the cognitive functions that we did in one feast, and then also the idea that I think we did in the Sukkot. But the thing is, in the car model, you have the 10-year-old sitting in the one seat in the back, and then you have the 3-year-old. They don't all act the same. Have you ever seen 3-year-olds? Not all of them act the same, okay? So you can't just say, oh, that's my problem is my 3-year-old. The 3-year-old simply means, in their analogy, which, by the way, I don't use the car model generally, and I told you guys that. I showed you it, but
it's a good visual for my brain.
But it simply means that particular function is less maturely developed.
Okay.
Which can mean that it acts more innocently and doesn't really cause a problem, or it could be really rambunctious and be acting out, as any child could. Some children at times, most children at times, they're wonderful, and other times they're oh my gosh, right? So you can't just point a finger at that. No.
Okay, but the concept of our flesh always being there is kind of like the zombie is in the back seat and he's just ready to attack you if you take your hands off the wheel.
No. The zombie used to drive and says, why are you not letting me drive?
Well, I got that vision of him coming at me. Well, I'm come on, I'm trying to drive straight.
No, you're trying to get in the driver's seat and push him over, and he doesn't want to get out of the driver's seat.
Okay, he's right there. Okay. That's
this is the you that used to drive. Okay? And, he's but I'm driving. You get in the passenger seat. Okay?
But the flesh will never be gone, though, correct? Till we're through this thing.
No, you're in a physical body with its physical aspects and chemistry and everything else. You have to, though, override all that. You have to be the one who's got the sovereignty over, the rulership over all that's going on inside of you.
Okay.
And then... See, Christianity will say, well, we just give everything over to him. Well, you can't do that if you don't have control over it first. Okay? You need to get a hold of this first before you give it to him.
And that's being sovereign over.
And that's why some of you struggle, but I gave myself to Christ. I gave myself to whatever you did when you were a Christian. But you never had control over you to give to anybody.
Right.
Okay? Right. So that whole thing is a bunch of BS if you haven't done that first. I'm just being blunt. Oh, but I've given myself over to God. Well, I don't even know what that means. Because you don't seem to have any control over yourself. What did you give?
Right.
Okay? Get control over yourself, and then you hand that throne to him. I've got this under control. I'm now ready to take this that's under control and submit it to you.
That's beautiful.
Okay?
Yes, that's beautiful. I wanted to say thank you. I appreciate everybody that comes up to me. All of you, Mishpachah, I love you. Mishpachah, I love you online. And your support, Rabbi. And I was able to rest in our new room with the nice little cot that's back there. And my heart got to rest so I could still be here. And I really wanted to be here.
The new tables here?
Yeah, I didn't even know it was in there. I was willing to try the old one. I was told there was an old cot.
No, I haven't seen it yet. And the part that goes up a little bit,
It was perfect. It was right on exactly what my heart needed. It was,
good.
It was so good.
Well, we got it for you. Well, and anybody else that would need it, but
Thank
for
you
you
so much.
specifically.
It means so much because I know my limits and I don't always get the chance. And you're right, I've tested it over and over again. And I hit this brink at like 3.5 hours. And if I could just rest for a little bit and come back in, I felt recharged after I got in. So
see, look, and again, this is not to brag on ministry, but this is what ministry should do. I was told that by our medical team, I was told that if she could have some place to lay down for a few minutes, she can make it through the entire service. Because normally you will see her here either at the end like this because she wants to get on the mic, and then she won't be here earlier, or she'll be here earlier for the praise and all of that stuff and have to then type in at this point because she can't make it through the whole thing. So I said, well, we'll just go ahead. What do we need? And I bought what we needed so that she could have that. Okay? And so that's just what we should be doing. Okay? And again, I'm not looking for applause for me. I'm just showing you that's what we're supposed to do. Okay?
It's beautiful. I really appreciate it.
Well, it's
so
beautiful
nice
that you're here the whole time.
And I'm not drained, which will help me. So I don't have to. I feel so blessed. Thank you. Praise Yah. Okay.
Because now you don't have to choose between this part.
Exactly. Yes.
And because I know you want to be here for the praise,
yes,
but you also want to be here for the teaching.
Yes.
But you can't do both. Now you can.
Praise Yah.
Yeah. Good.
I'm so excited. Okay, you were. He was talking about we're given this new nature when he draws us. He gives it to us. Are we given the new teaching? Does that come with the bubble pop? And is that when we're under a different authority? If that makes any sense.
No. Oh, well, it makes sense. Okay, look. He makes you, as I said in the beginning of the teaching, he causes you to be aware. Okay? So I talked about when he opens up your bubble, he says it's to the possibility of a way of escape. He causes you then to seek it.
Okay.
Then you have to be, if you're sovereign enough over your mind, be willing to receive as he leads you to those answers, okay? So the bubble pop causes you to recognize you need something.
Okay.
Something's wrong, something's missing, whatever. And you start seeking it. He causes you to know that there is answers out there that you start looking for. Now, if you don't have enough, I guess, of that internal, what you need, you'll get the bubble pop and just be like, that's not worth the effort. It's too hard. I'm not even going to go look for it, okay?
Right.
But he gives you that poke to say, this thing that you wanted, it's here. Go find it. He didn't say it's here. He said, it's here. Go look for it, okay?
So it's you decide to be in agreement with it, like what you were talking about.
Well, then when you go to find it, you got to sift through a bunch of junk until you find the thing that is the thing.
Right.
Okay, but you have to go out there and look for it. It's not like you're going to look for it and the first thing you come up to goes, oh, wow, look, here it is. Oh, no, that's not it. Okay? You might have to go through a bunch of them, okay?
Okay.
But you're looking for what he caused you to seek, okay?
So it's when you come under the right teaching. That's when you're choosing to be under that authority? Or how does...
No, when you choose to embrace the right teaching.
Okay.
And then your life comes in alignment with what he's instructed or taught you.
Okay. What direction do I want to go? Interesting.
It's funny how I spend most of my life rewording people's stuff.
You always challenge
That's
it and you bring it at a different angle. So it's just oh, okay. So
I love the rare moments where the person says something like, yes, that's correct.
You do that a lot. It happens a lot. The verse 20 in chapter 6, verse 20, it was talking about, for when you were servants of sin, you were free from righteousness. I was wondering if this is why we don't proselytize. I was like, it's pointless. You're talking to a bunch of people who can't do anything about it. Why are we trying? Previously, Christianity just, this is the thing you got to do.
No.
But it
We
seems
don't-
almost
wait, wait, wait.
pointless
No.
that way.
But that's not why, right?
Okay.
We don't proselytize, well, first of all, because it's not your job.
Right.
But we don't proselytize, and the reason it doesn't work is because they're still in Ephesians 4.
Right.
They're walking the futility of their minds.
Yes.
They cannot receive until he pops the bubble.
Right.
You can't pop it for them. Okay? So it's that reason. Two reasons. One is it's not your job. Yah's really big on you knowing what is and isn't your job. Okay? Christianity has made everything your job. It's not your job. But you learn very quickly when you try that it doesn't work anyway. You can't pop their bubble. Okay? Oh, sure, when you're a Christian, bringing people into Christianity, that wasn't so hard. Hey, believe in this guy, and everything's great.
Yeah,
What's so hard about that?
Uh-huh.
As opposed to, hey, guess what? There's a whole bunch of stuff that you need to learn to stop doing. What? And a whole bunch of stuff you need to start doing. What? I'll pass. Okay? So it's different. It's different. Instead of saying, oh, just believe in this guy and life is going to be, roses. That's sort of what Christianity tries to sell you, okay? We don't give you that nonsense. We tell you the truth. The truth is that knowing, embracing, having a relationship with what is truth, and then walking truth sets you free.
But the concept of going after them when they are in sin and their authority figure is not Elohim, it's absolutely pointless to try to fight that because without him we can do nothing.
Right, well, and you can't fight it if they don't even know what sin is.
Right.
Okay, and they don't
Amen.
understand that this verse is talking about judicial approval. Okay, you can't get judicial approval if you don't know what brings the approval.
Yes.
Okay, they think that you don't have to do anything to gain any approval because he did it.
Yes.
So therefore, approval is automatically yours by allowing him. So you're basically, vicariously taking his approval. But that's not what it says. It says act like him, be like him, become like him, and you'll be approved.
Yes, amen.
Okay? It didn't say just believe that he did it and then his approval becomes your approval. That's so dumb.
It is. And when you said that you're not in the system yet to get Elohim's approval, I was like, it is like the Matrix. They're not plugged in yet. They ain't going to get nothing. I was like, it makes so much sense. It's good, Rabbi. It's good. I geek out. I know. Let's see. Look,
the entire Matrix is people living in the futility of their mind. They were in a system that was lying to them. No matter what they did, it wasn't going to matter. They were in a lied-to system.
It makes so much sense.
Okay? And that's when Neo wakes up and he says, now welcome to the real world.
Yeah.
Okay? Very different sort of deal.
It really, it's just so visual for me. It's a really good concept. I was wondering about, I've been wanting to ask you this for a while. I think it's on my 2-year list. It was like 2 years ago. So Shaul, when he was talking about fighting his flesh, I was wondering, since Shaul was, the top dog, he was a Pharisee among Pharisees. He was, he crossed his T's, he dot his I's. I was wondering if possibly the flesh that he struggled with was fighting the tradition that he had been convinced of was Torah. I don't know if that's a weird question or not, but I was wondering.
No, look, we don't know because he never tells us.
Right.
But let me just kind of do it this way. Let's say you're on a scale of, let's say 1 to 100, right? So you see yourself as, let's say you're starting off at like a 20 or something, right? You're down towards the bottom of the scale. And you look at yourself and you think, oh my gosh, I'm awful. I'm down, I'm not even close to 100. But you know what? When you get to 80, you'll think the same thing, except that you'll be doing different things that you still struggle with, not the things you were still struggling with when you were at 20 or 30 or 40, right?
Right.
But you can still look at yourself like, what I want to do, I don't do. And you may be looking at 20 at the person struggling at 80 going, what are you talking about? But to that person, they're recognizing the things they struggle with are still struggles. They're just not the things they struggle with when they're lower down on the scale. Okay?
Yeah.
All right? So some of the things are much more obvious when you come out of very obvious worldly, behavior patterns, all right? And so, you may have been somebody doing really, things that even society would think were not the brightest and brilliant things to be doing. But those are the obvious fixes, right?
Right.
But then there's the internal stuff. And Paul's like, yeah, I'm a Pharisee of Pharisees. All that meant was I know the law better than, he could recite the entire Tanakh by heart, because that would have been required as a student of Gamaliel. Right. But the thing is, that didn't mean I was great at doing it all, just because I can quote everything. But I don't think he struggled with the things that, say, a regular, worldly, delusional-minded, dead in trespasses Gentile would have when they first come in.
Right. Okay.
Okay? He didn't struggle to make sure he ate right.
Right. He was good
A
at
brand
all
new
the stuff that
person
we
is going to struggle.
Right.
I got to read labels now, right? Okay? I got to recognize when sundown is and Saturday. I mean, there's things that you struggle with in the beginning because it's all new. So Paul didn't struggle with any of those kind of things.
Right.
But whatever he did struggle with was just as upsetting to him as the stuff that at level 20 or 25 would be struggles for you. It felt the same to him, even though he might be up higher as what you might struggle with if you were down lower.
Right.
Okay? So we don't know what it is because he never tells us.
Okay.
But he's simply saying, things I know I should do, I don't do them. And it makes me angry. And things I know I shouldn't do, I do them anyway. Okay? Whatever that is, somebody who knew what it was, which is why you don't need to share these things with everybody, because they'll look at you sometimes like, really? You struggle with that? That's so small. No, it's small if you had the bigger things still going on, but maybe you handle those, what people might think are bigger, and these things are now your bigger things because it's what you got left, but you're still struggling. Okay? It's perspective. It has to do with the perspective of it.
Well, I was thinking about what Yeshua talked to the leaders about when he was around, and how they were complaining about they're eating grain without washing their hands. Their traditions that became Torah, which he had a problem with. And I was wondering if he had a part of him, kind of like us coming out of Christianity, we have sides of us that we're still trying to let go of certain doctrines that are very much entwined. And I wondered how much that was entwined within Shaul and could possibly be a frustration for him.
It could be.
Because every time I put on my shoes or every time I'm trying to eat grain, I want to do this. And I know it's not required. So that was...
I don't know. I mean, it just doesn't say...
Okay.
He seems to tell people to imitate and keep the traditions he taught them, whatever they were.
Right.
So I don't know that he struggled. We just don't know.
Okay.
Okay, I think it's more of a, like I said, psycho-emotional shortcoming that he just struggled with, because it doesn't really say any other way.
Okay.
So there's no way. Right. There's just really no way to know it. And so I just want us to keep that in perspective. But for example, I had people used to come up to me years ago. This goes way back. Uncle Bob, Shamish Uncle Bob would remember this. But years ago, I used to shave right after Passover, and then I'd grow the beard back right after Sukkot. My wife didn't like the beard, okay, at the time. She likes it now, okay? But, I happen to like to kiss my wife, and she found the beard too scratchy or whatever. So, half a year at least, she was more happy to kiss me, okay? But the thing is, I would get people coming up to me going, "Where's your beard? You have to have a beard." Well, no, there is no verse that says that. There are verses in Leviticus that tells you what to not do if you have a beard to your beard.
Right.
But I always noticed that the person who was giving me grief almost always didn't have any seat on. I'm like, I'm sorry, my ears are a little clogged. I can't really hear you over the deafening sound of you not having seat on. Like, why are you worried about my beard? So everybody's issues can really be different, okay?
Okay.
All right. Now, I wear the beard now because I prefer not to shave anyway. My wife's gotten used to it. And actually, the last time I shaved it off, some of you might remember this, my son and I both got buzz cuts, and I shaved the beard off, and I freaked a bunch of people out. And they were like, "Rabbi, don't ever do that again." So I'm like, fine. I'd rather have it anyway, okay? But understand that what you struggle with, don't ever compare that to anybody else's struggle, and don't compare their struggle to yours. Mm-hmm. Your struggle is your struggle. And your struggle may really get your goat, so to speak. I mean, it really might get you frustrated, even though to somebody else to be like, seriously?
Right.
This is upsetting you? Well, it's you, not them.
Right.
Okay? So don't let anybody else's perspective on how big or small your struggle is or should be. Okay, now if you counsel, I might say, look, you need to figure out, and you got some bigger things maybe to redirect on and balance it, but that's a counseling thing, not just somebody saying, well, I can't believe you're that upset about that.
Right.
So I think if we knew what Paul, I think maybe that's why. I think if we knew what he was all upset about, we'd all be like, seriously?
I think that's
And that's why he doesn't say it. But he's like, I hate this stuff. It's like, whoa. I mean, because he was in that point where he wanted so badly to be right and perfect in his eyes that anything that he was falling short and struggling with would make him feel that way.
Right.
Whatever it was.
Right.
Okay, and you might be like, man, I got a long way to go before I need to worry about that thing being such a big deal. I got bigger things to worry about. Good. That's your plank, that's the twig, that's whatever. Work on your stuff, right?
Right.
Okay.
Is everything permissible? So we talk about the flesh and we talk about the Torah or Elohim being in us and this battle that's going on. Is everything always one or the other? Is this always, if I want chocolate ice cream, is that the flesh? If I want, do you know what I'm saying? Christianity did this thing where like everything needs to be prayed about. So pray about the ice cream you're getting. And
all right, look, Paul uses a line that I think is very, very good. He says, not everything that is permissible is good.
Right.
He says, I've realized that not everything that I'm allowed to do is good for me. Okay? And so, is there anything wrong with eating chocolate ice cream? I had some last night. It's probably not a good idea to have it every day all the time.
Right.
Okay? So, if you find out that you have a problem with something in your diet. I mean, everybody's finding out they're allergic to something. You can't eat something, whether it's obvious things like people with gluten or dairy or whatever. But let's say then you find out it's permissible. There's nothing wrong or Torah-wise in terms of you eating that, but you have an issue with it, so it's not good for you. All right? So that's where we have to go to this idea of permissible. So when you say, is it the flesh? It's the flesh when you know you can't do something or shouldn't, and you do it, that's the flesh.
That's what I want.
Okay? So when I watch some diabetic friends of mine over the years, not recently, constantly eating what they shouldn't, and eventually losing a leg, eventually losing a life. This was very sad. Yeah. And I was looking at them like, but you can't do this with your problem.
Right.
Okay? That's flesh.
Bam, that's what I needed. That was great.
Right?
That was so good.
When I watch the person sitting on the park bench with their oxygen mask unplugged so they could smoke, that's flesh.
Yes.
Okay, when they have to take the oxygen mask off, smoke the cigarette, and then they put the oxygen mask back on. They should have left it on and blown themselves up, made it faster. They're like, oh, Rabbi, don't say that. Well, they're headed that way anyway. They might as well speed it up a little bit.
Yes.
It's dumb.
Yes.
I just lost all these people following us.
Be like, well, I
mean, if you're going to kill yourself, don't make all the rest of us watch you be stupid doing it. You know, it just seems to be dumb. I mean, I sit there going, are you kidding me? You got a tank you're dragging around with you. You barely can walk, and you're going to take your oxygen thing out of your nose so you can smoke.
But that's the concept. We apply that to everything we do, right, Rabbi? So it's like, if you actually struggle with something and you're purposely doing it, he's seeing that. He's seeing that we're purposely doing something that we know is not helpful.
That's when the flesh is winning. Okay, remember, this is about, by the way, even when you were outside of Torah, he saw this. When you realized something was wrong, maybe societally, culturally, whatever, but you did it anyway, that's a character issue. Okay, that's the law of flesh still winning in you. Okay? Once you knew something was aberrant to the world or to the culture or to the whatever, but you chose to do it anyway, it's the same problem.
Right.
Okay? Here we just have a source of instruction of things you should and should not do. Things, do these, don't do these. And when we choose to do them or not do them in the right order, we're good. When we don't do the do's and we do the don'ts, the flesh, right? Okay?
So there are technically like gray areas, stuff that we don't, it's not necessarily
They're not
fleshly
gray
for
areas,
us,
they're just non-Torah addressed areas. There's things Torah doesn't address.
but it's not necessarily fleshly. Like us eating every day is not necessarily fleshly unless like we have a struggle with eating.
No.
Correct?
No. You're eating, if you know that what you're eating is hurting you, is fleshly.
Right.
Okay?
So it's only when it's a struggle that it becomes fleshly.
Well, when it's a struggle against something you know is hurting you or wrong
Right.
or something like that, okay?
Right. Okay.
Okay? I've watched people go to restaurants telling me that they can't do dairy, but it's a Mexican restaurant and they're going to get the queso.
Yes. Yeah, I've seen
Knowing full well they're going to tell me how much time they spent in the restroom afterwards. Because they just did it anyway. And I'm like, because you're stupid. Okay? Your flesh, one, that's stupid. Okay? If you know something's going to do that, why would you do that? Okay? So it's not like it's a gray area. I'm just saying each person has things you should know you can't do, even though you love to do. Okay? That are not Torah issues. But Yah's watching you to see what kind of choices you make. Okay? If you know you can't eat something, but you eat it anyway, knowing you're going to break out this, that, or the other thing, but you love it so much it's worth it to you, that's dumb. Have some strength inside to just say no, even though you really want it badly.
Right.
Okay? Don't just be like, well, I'm willing to pay that price. Well, that's dumb. He let you have the price to see if you're willing to give up what you love so you don't pay a price.
Right.
Okay? Because the price is giving up what you love, not the price is going ahead and having the suffering because you ate the thing you shouldn't have eaten, whatever.
And it's the battle. That's so good. Okay,
Okay.
that's all I have. That is so good. Thank you, Rabbi.
You're welcome.
So I wanted to talk about what Olivia was talking about at the end. I have a few things to talk about, but I had something to say. So regarding something being permissible, well, flaming hot anything. I love flaming hot. So if anybody knows me, they know I love spicy stuff, And so anything flaming hot Cheetos, the Takis, all that stuff, like love. Okay?
Yeah, but do you like it? All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
But all that stuff has like Red Lake 40 that I'm allergic to. Like I found, well, not allergic. Okay, I have a sensitivity to the Red Lake 40, anything that has that in it. And so I end up getting like asthmatic type issues. And so I realized, like you said, I can't have it. And so I have to always ask questions if anything is orange in the restaurant. I mean, they even put it in like the store brand macaroni and cheese. They put it in Cool Ranch. Cool Ranch Doritos has red 40 in it. Like, why? It doesn't need to be red. I mean, it's Cool Ranch. So anyway.
Well, you're talking to the wrong person because I would never eat Cool Ranch Doritos. Or anything with ranch, anything. I'm one of the few people on the planet that doesn't like ranch stuff. But anyway, go ahead.
We're all weird.
I just lost a whole bunch of other people viewing now because I don't like ranch.
We're all weird. We all fit in with all our crazy stuff we like and everything. So anyway, I just want to say that I agree, or not agree, but I can feel you with that. That when I realize, and every once in a while I do like, it's orange, but it doesn't have it in there. I kind of eat it anyway. And then it's like, but, most of the time, almost 100% of the time, I say no.
Right.
But sometimes.
Look, I'm not trying to spin this for you a little bit in your favor, but if you don't know and you're willing to roll the dice, that's one thing. It's worse when you know. You know the thing has the problem ingredient or whatever it is, and you do it anyway, okay? That's a bigger, I'm going to give into my desire, lust for it, as opposed to, well, I don't know. Now, you could make more effort to find out or whatever, but you're willing to say, I'll take a chance is one thing. But when you know something is whatever, and you're going to have that problem and still do it anyway, that's more foolish, okay?
Okay, confession again. So I know. I know.
We are having that booth installed here so that you can have, okay? And we'll have at the back table some beads, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
I know that I shouldn't be eating 3 hours before bedtime, but
To go to bed later. Why you laugh? I eat 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, but I go to I go to sleep 3, 4 in the morning, so it's not a problem. Go ahead.
Sometimes I do it. I'm just saying, I just was confessing since you said that. But I know I need to stop doing that. So I'm getting better and better. And it's mostly emotional eating anyway, Or I have a taste for something. It's like, well, I have a taste for that. I need to eat it, But I'm getting better and better. Okay.
Good.
I'm done. I'm done with that. Okay, let me go to what I originally came up here for. So I really appreciate your image of the 100 scale struggle measuring stick.
Okay.
It was brilliant, thank you. And it reminded me of what I was going to get up here and talk about. I remember reading Romans 7:19 that we talked about, in Christianity. And I remember wondering how this could ever be, like how I could ever overcome some of the struggles that I was struggling with.
Right.
And so it goes right with your 100 scale image. And I wondered how bitter and sweet waters, that somewhere else it says that, how that's coming out of the same fountain. I felt like that was how it was with me. And thinking back is because I was pretending, I was like two-faced. I had masks. Well, I'm probably sure everybody has masks still, but I was putting on this face, and I wasn't authentic. And so I know that was bitter and sweet waters, and I wondered how I could ever be authentic and actually be, Torah observant. I didn't think Torah observant at that time, but that's the concept. So some sins that I found I struggled with, I thought I was never going to be able to overcome. And what I now find is that practicing Torah observance makes it easier and easier to do what I used to struggle with. I mean, not do the thing I was struggling
But easier to
with.
overcome this.
Even,
right,
yes.
Right. Easier to overcome those.
Yes.
Things.
And like the Torah observance with one thing, I feel gives me strength to overcome the struggle in something else,
Sure.
And so
you're building up the confidence that you can, go forward. Sure.
And now I have new toys to play with, like you talked about, like getting my emotional triggers under control and overcoming my childhood trauma wiring in my brain. So when I wrote this down, when it popped in my head, I thought about Monica. Hey, Monica, girl, we miss you. So, So I really feel like that 100 measuring stick was perfect because that's how it is.
Right.
We have our bottom level stuff we struggle with, and then there's more different things we struggle with, and we're as disgusted, if we're on the right path of when we're at 50 or 60, struggling with those things as we did before.
Right.
But we've got better at the other things.
Right. And I'm sure Monica is loving everything we're talking about with the brain and everything else. Yes.
Oh, and then I wanted to say thank you for empowering us, and that's what Eddie was saying, that we are in control of our own healing journey. And with resources that we have, like now YouTube, the internet, AI searching, library, we can even get stuff on our devices at home with the library. There's all kind of free resources that we have, and we can find help for almost anything that we struggle with, mostly for free. So we're empowered, and now in this day and age, we don't have to wait around for somebody else, or money doesn't have to be an issue. So, thank you for empowering us with that.
You're welcome. Look, one of the things that Jim Rohn always talked about, Jim Rohn's probably like the father of all of the personal development stuff, is that if you're going to put 40 hours into somebody else's world and dream and everything by having a job, why would you not at least put that much time into you? Okay, and I tell you this all the time. This is not bragging. I'm trying to lead. I study, listen to, watch, whatever, personal, whatever area I'm working on that day, different areas I could be working on, every day, multiple hours of stuff, every day, okay? I'm not saying I never do anything that's just for entertainment, although I do find it more entertaining than things that are for entertainment. But why are you not doing things to work on the 7 areas of your life? I study things about finance. I study things about my health. I study things about whatever. I'm always, spiritual stuff, whatever it is, I'm always working on growth, okay? And I know a lot of us just don't put that kind of time in. You give a boss 40 hours, 50, 60 hours. I'm not saying you need to put that time into another job, although maybe you should, but into yourself in some way. Now, as far as that scale, I just want to say this because you reminded me of something. I'll give you an interesting example, okay? Some of you if you've ever gone bowling, I'll give you an example, bowling, because I've been bowling a lot lately, okay? So if you ever go bowling, one of the first things that you're hoping to do is keep it out of the gutter. And if you throw the ball into the gutter, you're like, okay? You get upset. And then you get to the point where you're not throwing it in the gutter all that often, but then you're upset when you're trying to break 100 at least, right? That's like the next goal. I want to break 100. And then when you start to be able to almost do that on a regular basis, if you don't break it, you get upset again. But now you're not upset about the gutter thing. You got a new thing, but you're just as upset as you were about the gutter thing, but now at this next higher thing. Then you're able to break 100 pretty good. And then you start to get frustrated if you're not breaking 140 or 150, whatever it is. You're still moving up, but each time you have a new thing that when you don't get it on a consistent basis, whatever, you feel just as upset or frustrated as you did at the bottom. So I want you to understand that it's the same emotional place, okay? When I'm not making my spares or I'm not throwing a couple of strikes in a row to kind of get my score up to where I'm trying to be able to get now that I bowl on a regular basis, I get just as frustrated when I was frustrated if I didn't break 100, Because I've had people say, well, what'd you get? And I say, wow, you broke 100. I said, yeah, that's a goal at that level. Because you bowl once every 3 years. Let's not picking on it. When I bowled that, I was happy to do that too. You bowl every week, you want to do a little better than that. But it could be anything in your life. I'm just giving you an example that at one level at the beginning, what frustrates you, you're going to overcome that, and something that's above that, better than that, is still going to frustrate you because it's still not where you're going. Does that make any sense? So now that I'm consistently, say, going 150, I still get frustrated if I don't get that level as equally as when I didn't get the other level. So all of the things, apply that to any area of your life, okay? So when what did Paul struggle with? Something maybe way above the lowest levels of that, whatever it is that he's struggling with, that he could be struggling with, but he feels the same about it as you might at the beginning, as he might have at the beginning. It feels the same, okay? All right? I now expect to strike, where in the beginning you expect just to keep the ball hitting the pins in the middle of the lane somewhere. Okay, so that expectation changes as your skill level or your experience level in whatever area you're working on improves, your expectations go up. And when you don't meet them, the frustration still feels the same. Okay? All right? Because I expect to do certain things that I didn't expect, say, before I started bowling regularly recently. Okay? I was like, okay, I'm just happy to get out there and just keep the ball on the lane. So I'm just saying, any area of your life, that could be the same, right? Okay? So maybe it takes a lot just to get you to the gym that first time. Okay? Then you start going like every week, but then you miss one. Now you might be frustrated with missing one as opposed to just not going at all. Maybe you got yourself up to 3 times a week and now you only went twice and you're like, oh. But you're just as frustrated as when you used to go once a week and you miss a week. Whatever, it moves up with you. So go ahead, did that help?
So I think it's really great that what Paul struggles with was ambiguous, so that we could apply it to any area of our lives.
Sure.
I think that is a good, it's good that it didn't say specifically what it was.
But actually, it was completely specific. He struggled with his mind against his flesh. Okay? That way you can apply it to anything, but it wasn't ambiguous at all. He's saying, I struggle with when my mind doesn't win over my flesh. He was very specific with that. So we don't wonder. He didn't just say, well, like I struggle with some stuff. He said, I want you to know there's a law in my there's two laws in my being, and they struggle. And he's really specific, I thought. I thought it was great. Go ahead.
That's a great way to look at it. Thank you, Rabbi. I appreciate you clarifying that. Okay, and then what you talked about pushing limits. What I find, I'm sorry. So I have symptoms of ADHD with hyperfocus, I realize. And thanks to some interactions with Mishpachah, I realized that I am limiting myself by allowing myself to do things that I have always done, using the excuse that is the way that I am. But it dawned on me that, well, what can I do to get better at some of these ADHD challenges? And I looked it up, and I got some new ideas that I can implement for workarounds. So I appreciate that I have these issues with different people in my life, so that when something triggers me or whatever, I can, once I decide to introspect, like, why did that trigger me?
Right.
I realize that it's probably this flesh struggle that I feel like I'm powerless, and so I'm mad at the other person for pointing it out.
Right.
But then I realized, well, wait a minute.
But you're the only one with that problem. Nobody else gets mad at the other person. It's just you. Everybody else is fine when someone points out their struggle.
So, once I'm done with being angry, and I can think again, I realize, well, I'm like, if I decide to actually try to dissect it, and I have so many more options that I thought I did, so many things I'm realizing just recently, I don't know, in the past few months, that things I get upset about, like really upset. I'm triggered. I'm realizing that I have control. I'm empowered to do something about it. Like, it's not just like, oh, well, it's me, this is my life, that I can do something about all those things. So I guess I'm blessed for my triggers to be exposed and for it to be bad enough, like, for me.
To make you have to change.
Yes, because I'm disgusted with my thoughts. I'm disgusted with my behavior. When I get to that point, like recently, poor Elder. Oh my gosh, poor Elder. I'm just letting the Elder have it. I apologized to him the other day. I was like, Elder, I'm so sorry. I just let you have it all the time, And, venting to him and going off, and he's just like, okay, So, but, the thought patterns that's bringing up, I'm just disgusted with myself,
right.
When I calm down.
Right.
When in the moment, it's all the other person's fault. But, when I calm down, it's like, okay, this is me. This is me. I can own it, and then once I own it, then I have the ability to change it, So
Right.
I just want to thank you for...
You know the song Margaritaville? If you know the song, Jimmy Buffett, by the end of the song, he realizes it's his own damn fault. Okay? He wants to blame everybody else in the beginning of the song, each time around the verse, but he finally finishes with, and I know, it's my own damn fault. Okay? That's what happens to all of us if we give it time enough to figure it out. But that also empowers you to fix it. And that's the beautiful thing that you're trying to say, is that you then get empowered to fix it. By the way, that's part of Elder's job as your supervisor, is to be able to sit there and go, and then give you a smack if you need it, but Okay, but that's part of his job, is to do that, okay? It also buffers you from coming to me, and you wouldn't get the Okay, so anyway, go ahead.
No, that was it. I just want to thank you for, we have endless opportunities of
Of growth.
Yes,
Of growth.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I know I've been really, having a hard time lately, but I think it's because it's just the season of my life where Yahweh wants to work on those things. I'm ready to work on those parts of myself, that personal development. And so, it's exciting times.
Good.
All
the way from Australia, for those who are watching.
Oh, yes. I must add, the Australian Mishpachah wish you all the very best.
You can keep looking at me because the camera will pick you up.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
And they want to send their love. And I need to shout out to all of those in Mirimbula. It's Mirimbula, so
Okay.
they're laughing their heads off at the moment. So anyway.
And of course, we want to say hi to Dale, your husband, our
Oh yeah, hi
regional
Dale.
coordinator there, our Australian coordinator, I mean. Trying to help you out here, Lisa.
Yeah, I'll see him when I get back.
Why wasn't I the first one you were wanting to say something? Okay, go ahead. Knowing Dale, he would never sound like that anyway, but go ahead.
I just wanted to echo what Marlene said, that we're living in an age where we've got access to AI and we've got access to so many books and all the rest of it. And I think back to the years when there was no phones and all of that kind of thing, and you were just stuck. If you didn't have the right way or anyone knowledgeable around you to help you find the answers that you need, you were stuck. And that's where a lot of the fear came from. And even today, most people that you talk to, that's where a lot of their fear comes from when they don't look. And it just spreads from there. And then,
let me just make a quick AI suggestion for everybody. The first number one thing I would use AI for is to ask the AI to recommend resources. Don't ask the AI to answer your problem. Say to the AI, I'm struggling with attention deficit, high focus, whatever it is that Marlene described her thing. What resources are there out there? Can you recommend books, recommend videos, and because it'll go search the internet to give you those sources. I would ask the AI to give you referrals to information sources, as opposed to asking it to answer your question, okay? Because then you will find some really good teachers that deal with your issue. And that's more valuable than just having the AI try to answer your question, okay? So that's what I would do. I would say, hey, can you recommend some books about whatever the issue is, okay? And even ask for videos. It'll probably find you YouTube videos, okay? It'll find you whatever. That's what I would do. Go ahead.
Yeah, because, the last 3 years we've had a lot of legal issues, and I've had to read through director papers and laws and all sorts of things on how to get businesses back on deck, and and had to, I did actually put those things through the AI and got the AI to comment on what those documents were, and afterwards it's just this peace came. I wasn't worried about it. I knew where I stood, and I could just move forward. So it was really great.
Well, we use it in a much more benign way. We use it to figure out what bowling ball I'm supposed to be throwing. Don't laugh. We're struggling with an oily pattern. What ball should I be using? The AI tells you.
Yep.
I never knew to use the AI for that, but my bowling partner does. So go ahead.
So I just wanted to share an experience in my early 20s when I first became a Christian. I had this epiphany at the time that I needed to be willing to lay my life down to the end. And I remember sitting in a car and praying and saying, Lord, I don't know whether I can die for you. And straight away after I said that, I heard the words, "Why don't you live for me first?" I just cracked up.
It's a great
and
answer.
I thought it was so wonderful that I'd heard this voice that I actually never even bothered to search further to work out what it meant. And it's only years later I can look back at that circumstance and go, that's the Torah was the missing piece. What was my point about that? So you were talking about the two laws about Torah, and I was thinking, why did Yahweh hide Torah behind all of Paul's confusing words and allow for that to be the way that it is? And I was thinking, about the scripture that it's for kings to search out a matter. And, he really wants us to ask, seek and knock. And I just want to encourage any Christians hearing this message that that is the way to find out the truth about this, is to really ask, seek and knock with your whole heart. So I just wanted to
Appreciate that.
share that.
Well, let me just say this, okay? And I'm going to give you a lot of credit, all right? And this will help hopefully some of the Christians out there. To Lisa's credit, when you were raised in something, and she did at some point get very much focused on being Christian at the time when she was Christian, that when she came into this, we banged heads quite a bit on some of those things that she couldn't let go of at the time. But she never quit, never took it personally, and we did bang heads quite a bit in the beginning, okay? But you never quit. You would sit there going, I don't know. And then you would come back and bring it again and be like, I don't know. But that's because it's hard to unlearn and relearn. So when she says, ask, seek, and knock, you also have to be willing to receive something that you didn't expect and wasn't what you were thinking it would look like, okay? Because the things that he is going to bring you are going to be swimming very much upstream against the current of what you always believed. Okay, so I want to give you credit because you and I have had to go back and forth quite a few times, not in any bad way, about things that you just could not receive at the time because you had so embraced this other way of thinking from your from the way you were raised and the way the way you developed, but you never quit. And so I want to give you a lot of credit for that. All right, fantastic.
Okay, so I got back, but I missed most of it. But I still had something that my brain connected to what I heard from you, Rabbi, when you were talking about how Paul struggled with his mind against the flesh. It's one of the areas where I find myself getting very motivated, excited, trying to learn a lot more about is obviously marriages and relationships. And I got this I listened to this podcast. This was an interview with this guy who's super, really, really good. I mean, this guy's charging thousands of dollars for one session to help couples, but he's really, really good. But what I gathered from him was this was my take from that. It was that, in a marriage, you have pretty much what you talk about: a boy and a girl that haven't matured enough, and they're stuck in kind of their trauma, and that trauma gets reenacted in the present as adults in their adult flesh, but really inside they're still broken, they're still acting like children. And a brilliant idea that you always talk about is, well, in the moment, what you need to do is engage from your adult side, because there's different inner parts for your adult part, so that you can break the pattern, and instead of reacting in anger or getting defensive or shutting down or doing whatever else couples do, to actually engage in a loving way, sharing, I would love if you could do this instead. This really triggers me. This goes back to this, whatever. Having a conversation, having to work through that. And just doing that will definitely change your relationship and improve the way you connect with each other. And it's very simple, but at the same time, Paul struggled with that. I'm sure he had a few things there that he had to work on. And I just wanted to say how much I appreciate your teachings, because through all that hour and a half that I listened, everything that he lined up, every idea, was so much like what you teach us. You're saying, look, you guys need to grow up. And it's true. We do. We need to grow up. We need to, you say you have to be more, instead of being so soft-skinned, be more like, you need to kind of work with people and be just more mature. And in this body, with some of the relationships that I have with the closest people in this body, I've seen tremendous growth in my brothers and my sisters primarily, because I relate more with sisters, but I've seen tremendous growth. And I think that when we take on the challenge to do that personal development growth, it's inspiring to other people, especially the ones that are really close to you, because they probably still want to keep that relationship, especially in a marriage. So if you're working on yourself, it's inspiring for the other person to do the same. And it's like a never-ending kind of ripple effect. Now, we're all growing, we're all getting, leveling up, like you say, we're all becoming more mature, we're all owning, we're all apologizing and really trying to change patterns that are so negative and exhausting. And so I just want to really praise Yahweh for you, Rabbi, because all what I hear out there is all connected to what you tell us every Shabbat, every Shabbat, every, in counseling. It's just the same thing, the same what Yahweh wants. And when Marlene was here earlier and she was talking about her struggles, we all have struggles, Obviously, we're all struggling here. But isn't it beautiful how Yahweh knows who to put in our lives so that we can see our ugliness in our faces and like, okay, this is not what you should be doing. This is not how you should be reacting. This is not honoring to Yahweh. This doesn't look like Him. And kind of not force you, but put it in your face so you can really deal with it. So I'm just excited about the journey, and I'm just thankful for your teaching, and praise Yahweh for giving us what we need in this journey to keep getting, keep evolving until we become like Him.
All right,
That's
amen.
all I say.
Thank you. Look, ultimately, I wish everything you said was true, that everybody's leveling up and everybody's working on this and owning that and doing everything, but they're not. The ones that are getting great results. But if you're a married couple struggling, if you were both working on yourselves, it would get better instead of trying to think of how we need to work on the marriage. Well, to work on the marriage, work on yourselves. Okay? You need to grow yourself up. Because what you said, Janet, about people then they get the couples talking or this or that, it won't work because they're just going to keep triggering things anyway until they can get rid of the triggers, until they can get mature enough so that they can receive and hear something they don't like hearing without having to then, emotion kicks in and now they can't hear anymore. And they're not able to receive anymore, okay? Because I see that happen on a regular basis when I counsel couples. That can happen on a regular basis. And then nobody's listening to anybody because all they're doing is listening to what they're going to take and use as ammunition from what you said to say something back. And it's just this throwing fire and gasoline on each other and burning and the whole thing down. It just doesn't work until you can grow up, okay? Remember, an adult is one that owns all aspects of their lives and should not be easily offended. Rabbi Tom loves to quote the verse that says, those who love thy law are not easily offended, okay? But we are fairly easily offended. And we take everything personally, especially things we shouldn't take personally. That becomes really a big problem. All right, but if we can win some of this battle stuff, okay, maybe there's a reason why he called me at this time to really focus this thing towards the inner battle. Moses gave us an aspect of what we needed to know. Yeshua came and kind of put it in a whole new perspective, and maybe I'm supposed to kind of put it into this mental, emotional, sort of flesh-spirit thing. Now, as far as what you said about, it's the honor of kings to search out a matter. I think that Paul's writings are not that confusing if you were the original people reading it. I think they knew what he was addressing. He wrote the letter to them, okay? So I don't think it was as confusing, but I think it was allowed to be something we ended up getting because of the second thing, which is it was supposed to be taught. This is never this in its entirety, not this all. I'm not saying all aspects of it, but as a whole, it was never meant to be understood by you without help. Parts of it easily, okay? But there's so much parts of this that were never meant to be understood without guidance. It was meant to be taught. So I'm not saying you can't read it and get anything. I mean, a good chunk of it you'll understand at least on one level. Some of you understood a lot of what I've taught you, but not on the level I've taught it to you. Because that part was meant to be something that was taught. So I think that, Lisa, is part of the thing there. Now, I don't disagree that it is, to the honor of kings to search out a matter, et cetera, but I think Paul's writings, when the people in Rome read this, they understood it much more clearly than we do, because he was addressing something they were familiar with why he was addressing it.
I just wanted to kind of share a couple of things that have been happening in my life. And the big thing
You got to bring it right up by your
Okay,
mouth.
the big thing that was really recently hitting me was that I am a spiritual person living in a flesh suit.
Yeah.
And when you really think about being a spiritual person, you think, well, if I'm spiritual, why am I limiting God? Why am I limiting doing anything really? And then, of course, God has sovereignty and he can do whatever he wants. So I can trust him with that. The other thing I was thinking about being a spiritual person, it talks about in his word that we have power of life and death in our tongues. And so what we say to other people, how we react to other people is really important. So we need awareness. So then I was thinking about, okay, well, Yeshua went off and he meditated all the time. And he had those quiet times. And I thought, that's the problem. I go through life, and I think a lot of people have gone through life. And I'm kind of embarrassed to say where I am at this stage that I really never meditated as far as having true awareness. And I think that's the being present, or some people call it meditate. And I thought, well, meditate, wow, that's really hard. I don't know how I could really do that. And then I read something that talked about meditation as when things come into your brain, like random thoughts, just kind of let them go. Because if you dwell on those thoughts, they'll keep bombarding you. And I thought, that's interesting, because God says, think on these things which are good. And so I thought, well, I need to do that more. And then I read something that said it's kind of like bubbles. When those thoughts come in, like the negative things in our lives, kind of put them in a bubble and send them off and get rid of them. And so you don't have to think about them. And it helped give me a little bit more of a picture.
I like that.
And then the other thing I thought about was, that we not only deal with the thoughts that come into us, that are constantly bombarding us, that are of the flesh, but also the heart, because the heart has the emotions. So we have to, again, put our awareness of what's really going on, because a lot of times we think it's coming from here, but it can be coming from here too.
Sure.
So those were just some thoughts that I've had recently.
No, great. Thank you, Sherry. All right, and look, the verse that talks about taking every thought into captivity. So we think of captivity as a slavery sort of thing, right? You take somebody into captivity, you're taking into, right? The people were in captivity. So what it simply means is that you take ownership of the thought. And so once I have the thought, I can crumple the thought up and throw it away, or I could decide to, hold it, store it nice somewhere and meditate on it and hold on to it and but you have to own it, that it's your thought to do what you want with it. It's not just, it gets to do whatever it wants, okay? All right, so I want to make sure that we're kind of getting that, right?
Thank you so much for teaching these things. I've been studying and practicing these things for over 20 years. And you're the first person who is behind a so-called pulpit who is actually teaching the things that we need. You're teaching us how to do these things. So I just wanted to express my appreciation for that. One of the things that I'm encountering with people is that they seem afraid to face whatever it is, from their childhood, from their past, whatever it may be. They're afraid to address those things because it feels like it's a monster in the closet or a Pandora's box. If I crack the lid, I can't just crack the lid and take a little bit out. The thing is going to come bursting out. So that was my first question. How would you encourage people to overcome that fear of what if it's too much and I can't handle it?
All right. I mean, you know me, okay? I'm going to try to dig under to figure out what's going on. It could be that the story that they're telling themselves is that there's something about me that allowed it or caused it or some other thing. So I don't want to open that up and deal with it because it will expose something in me, okay? We should be able to, and I have a hard time with people sometimes to get them to this place where we should be able to get to the place where we recognize this thing is not happening now. It happened in the far past. But yet people live like it's still happening now. You could be 45 years old. It happened to you when you were 4, and you're still living like it could happen to you today, even though there's every reason that I could give you why it would be almost impossible to happen because of the parameters of why it happened then don't exist now, okay? A lot of abuse happens to children, okay? And the reason the abuse happened to you at that time is because you were a child, not because of anything you did to earn it or deserve it, but now as an adult, that would not happen to you because it happened to you because the person was abusing children. And so once you're no longer a child, that should no longer be a fear. It is a trauma that needs to be dealt with, but it's not a fear. Problem is, you in an irrational way have not accepted that it can't happen now. Things are different, okay? I've had to explain to some people when I did some marriage counseling and said, look, things are different now. They go, what do you mean they're different now? I said, they are. You involved me before there wasn't me. That doesn't mean it's going to be better or not. It's different by definition. Because they'll say, oh, we went home and it was the same thing all over again. I said, it's not the same thing because now you come to me. You didn't have me to come to before. No, that doesn't mean it's going to be better or worse, but you have to at least start off with understanding there are things that make it different. It may feel the same. That's really what triggers. Now, the fear is that something feels the same. But is it the same? Is the feeling rational or irrational? A dog bit you when you were 4. Now you're afraid all dogs are going to bite you. That's not a rational thought. You can learn that other dogs won't bite you. It's just one of those things where you have to get out of the emotion and into the present reality and use logic over the irrational fear. So these are those scary monsters are the irrational fears, wanting to just hold on. It's also dealing with I feel like somehow I deserve that. These things happen to me. Maybe there's something wrong with me. Maybe I bring this out of people. Maybe I deserve this in some way. There's something about me. Well, maybe that's not it at all, and you just bought into that. It's a story you've told yourself, which is why you need a therapist to walk you through understanding that that's not the reality. So many reasons it could be. So I just gave you a bunch of them just to give you this much of it, that if I was talking to somebody, I would have to dig to figure out what aspect of this has them so afraid. What is the thing out of the closet they're afraid that's going to come out? Is it somebody to do the thing to them again? Maybe. Is it dealing with that they've always blamed themselves or somebody else said, well, it's your fault, that person. You enticed them. You did this, you did that. What is their fear? What is the monster really? Okay? So it could be very different things. So I'd have to dig that out. Okay? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right.
And I think sometimes it's pain. That was extremely painful. And if I even dip my toe in that water, then again, something is going to come up.
But why would it still be painful? That's what I'd have to dig out. It happened.
Well, I think when things...
So it shouldn't be painful now unless you haven't resolved that it happened, but it's not happening and it probably won't happen again. So there's an unresolved thing. Otherwise, it should not still be painful. It should be a sad or negative memory from wherever, but it shouldn't hurt anymore.
It's
Okay?
almost that we have to have somebody go in there and help and do some surgery in there and kind of
Okay.
dig around and maybe remove.
Every one of us has walked barefoot and jammed a toe on a leg of a chair or a table. That hurts about as much as anything. But you know what? I think about it. I don't feel the pain anymore. I remember it happening. I remember that it hurt a lot when it happened. But we have to get to the point where we realize there's no reason for it to still hurt. And so if it still hurts, something else is happening. And so that's what I'd want to say. Okay, it's hurting you. Why? Let's figure out what about it is causing you to still hold on to that pain. It could be it's become your excuse not to do. It's your justification for your life being where it is now instead of you owning that you made a bunch of choices since you were 4. I've told this story many times. I had somebody that we used to work with in the congregation many years ago in a wheelchair, in her 60s, and had been molested when she was a child. And she never really dealt with it. And I told her that one time. She got so mad at me. She said, I've been to so many therapists, but you didn't deal with it. You went and acted like you were dealing with it. Okay? Because you can go to as many therapists as you want if you don't actually deal with it. If you dealt with it, you only have to go to one. You went to many because you thought, this is telling me I'm doing something when I'm not really doing something. If you were doing something, you'd have fixed it the first time. Okay? Because again, I explained to her, I said, this happened to you under these very unique, horrible circumstances that no longer exist, when you were completely defenseless and the people around you didn't protect you, which is no longer the case. But you have chosen to be frozen in that space and allowed it to debilitate the whole rest of your life. You need to own that. You don't need to own anything about what happened. None of that was your fault. Choices you made after that, though, were yours. And you don't want to see, they're afraid to deal with that. They're afraid to own that maybe my life sucks because I made bad choices after the horrible thing happened. That's hard to hear. Okay? That's really hard to hear. It's easy to use the justification that the victim, okay? They want to still wear that victim thing sometimes. And that's what she threw at me. And I said, no. The only reason you're still a victim is because you have chosen to be. Of course, she left the congregation after that. Because she did not want to own or look at herself. So that's part of the scary monster, is that they have to own and look at themselves. That doesn't minimize that the terrible thing happened. I always told her that. I said, I have complete, horror about whatever, that thing that happened to you. That was the horrible thing. But it was when you were 4. You're 65. It hasn't happened since. Yeah, it was bad. It was traumatic. It was awful. It was everything you want to describe. But why did you let it ruin the rest? Why would you give that person power over the rest of your life? You chose that. Everybody's going to get mad at me for saying that. No, you choose. Because every one of you that went through whatever horrible thing, I can show you people that survived that and thrived afterwards because they recognized that they weren't going to give that person that power to wreck their life. Okay? And then it justifies all the things in your life that are not right instead of owning it.
One of the coolest things that I ever studied was about the adult you speaking to the child you. Mm-hmm. And reparenting. It's been called a number of different things, but being able to address that child, even when we're triggered, to be able to say, okay. Once we've studied it, once we've looked into it and spoken to enough people, read enough books, listened to enough podcasts, whatever the case may be, we have the awareness of what is happening. And sometimes, I know this might surprise you, I talk to myself all the time, because when I get triggered, or when I'm not even triggered, I'm grieving something. There have been some losses, and everyone has something or multiple things they're dealing with. And I will speak to myself and I will say, Laura, stop it. First of all, stop it. Right. Stop staring at the problem. You're doing it again. You're obsessing about this thing and you're feeling the pain over and over and over and over again. So how about we look over here? Mm-hmm. And, kind of readdressing it and pulling out all the tools from my toolbox that I've collected over 25 years or so, being able to pull out one of those tools and say, well, does this fit? But I'm still in a place sometimes where I am aware of exactly why I'm hurting. I am aware of what I need to do, and what I need to do or what I'm trying to do isn't working. And that's when I start to pray. And I say, okay, Father, I feel angry, I feel resentful, I feel jealous, I feel hurt, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. I don't want to feel this way anymore. I don't want to wallow in this, but I am, I'm crying or I'm angry. Help me right now, right here, right now. Give me what I need to get through this problem, because I know that there are tools in my toolbox that I forgot about. Or maybe I see them and I can't even pick them up. Help me pick them up. And in that way, I'm empowering myself, but asking for his help. And that has been so, I guess, just powerful for me. And I wanted to share that. Talking to myself works a lot of times.
Right.
Sometimes in the mirror. Sometimes I talk to the Father and I just say, all right, I know I need to do something different. So, but I think a lot of people just don't have that awareness. They haven't, as you've said, they haven't done the work to become aware of, like, what, all I know is I'm angry, or all I know is I'm sad, or I'm really fearful, but they don't dig down to figure out, but why? And what is it that you haven't dealt with that, as you've said? I just,
Right.
yeah.
All right, look, a couple of things real quick, because it's already getting to be 5:30. Number one, we all should recognize that when you struggle, especially emotionally, you need a guide. Not someone will solve your problem, but guide you through you going through the thing. Okay, you need a guide. That's what I try to do. That's what a good therapist would try to do, is guide you to that place. Now, when you said something about like reparenting, or how you like talk to the child what does a parent, generally a good parent, do with a child? They try to get them in their irrational space into a more rational, logical space. See, the person that's reliving the trauma is not being logical or rational. It's an irrational response, because the thing is not happening right now. So it's not rational to be responding to it now that way. So a parent would have to help the child say, but this isn't happening now. Yes, it did happen, and it was horrible, but we need to get you calmed down, rational and logical, to understand that you're not in danger now. Yes, you were in danger then, and nobody, whatever, it happened. But that's not happening now. Let's look at now and realize the things that made that available to happen don't exist now. And so let's just talk about that, okay?
I love that.
Okay, and so it's the logical and rational to the irrational trauma trigger, okay?
The guide, I love that.
And then you need a guide. People go to therapists thinking the therapist is going to fix it. No, they have to guide you through you getting to the place where you're healthy. It's a guidance, okay? And so that's when people come to me, I try to guide them to it, all right? I hope that was good for everybody.